Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Mountain View, a day for perspective, problem solving, and a proactive way. All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad. We are in the 8th juz'. MashaAllah, you've completed a whole week of Ramadan. 25% of Ramadan is over, and now we are in the second week of Ramadan, and in these very beautiful end of one surah and beginning of another in this juz' that will help us get some perspective on life. All right, and I am using for my resource for this particular talk في ظلال القرآن, which is a 20th century tafsir by Sayyid Qutb. And it's a powerful and fun tafsir if you are ever interested in reading it yourself. All right, Bismillah. So I actually am going to jump a little bit. I'm going to jump to Well, I was going to jump further. Yes, we're going to go ahead and jump all the way to where my original intention is. Page 150, if you're following along in a regular Mus'haf, verse 160. And this is the start of perspective for us as we are thinking about how are we living our life, and how are the things that we do in our life affecting us. Okay? And so as we think about that, we look here at this verse. من جاء بالحسنة فله عشر أمثالها ومن جاء بالسيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها وهم لا يظلمون. Now, it's a very simple concept. It's one you all know very well, but I want you to take it. I would like us all today in this month of Ramadan to take this in as part of how we see perspective, how we see the world and what we're doing in the world. And that is who comes with a good deed. Okay? So you've come with a good deed. Now, if you come with that good deed, فَلَهُ عَشْرُ أَمْثَالِهَا. This is in all of the days outside of Ramadan. So all of the days outside of Ramadan, you come with one good deed, you get as though you've done 10 good deeds. So if you think about donating or being kind to someone or an extra sunnah prayer outside of Ramadan, every good thing you do, you get as though you've done it 10 times. In Ramadan, there are narrations that say it's as though you've done it 70 times or multiples of 70. And then it continues, وَمَنْ جَاءَ بِالسَّيِّئَةِ. So who comes with a sin or a wrongdoing, فَلَا يُجْزَى إِلَّا مِثْلَهَا. He's not rewarded, or compensated for that, except for in one. So in other words, it counts as one. So one sin is one wrong thing, and one good is 10. Now this is to help us with perspective as we think about how are we living our life, because it has come to my knowledge that many Muslims have taken on this sort of modern Western, especially Muslim women, I think, taken on this idea that I can never be good enough. I'm not good. I can't be good. I do too many things wrong. Now, there are ways to talk about this, and we can talk about becoming of the best of people, but let's talk right now of becoming of the good people. Okay? Ramadan is here to help us with that. Now, the verse finishes, وَهُمْ لَا يُظْلَمُونَ. And none are wronged. None are wronged. So, it's all in balance. Now, in Ramadan, this does change a little bit. The change is, first of all, when you do good deeds, they are multiplied for you. But when you do bad deeds in Ramadan, you don't have shaitan to help you out with that. And so there are some narrations that let us know that sins in Ramadan count for more. Wallahu a'lam. Because the Quran is clear that فَلَا يُجْزِي إِلَّا مِثْلَهَا, it's only one. Now, this is followed by a long, we move right into the next surah, Surah Al-Araf. And here we are going to be introduced to the story of Shaitan and how Shaitan, not introduced because we've already been introduced to Shaitan earlier in the Quran, but here it's almost like we are learning more about Shaitan so that we can fight against Shaitan. Because Shaitan is our sworn enemy. And as you are walking along this path and trying to be a good person, trying to be good, Shaitan is walking along and trying to trip you up and trying to make it so that you're just not good. And so the surah begins in the beginning talking about the Quran, but then I'm moving down a little bit and to talk again about our deeds and what happens with our deeds. وَالْوَزْنُ يَوْمَئِذٍ الْحَقِّ. Okay, so the weighing on that day is true. And that day is, of course, the day of judgment. And the weighing means to have our deeds weighed. And we'll continue. فَمَنْ ثَقُلَتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. And so this is verse 8, by the way, and 9. And the English is, and the weighing of deeds on that day will be true. Thus, those whose balances or weight or scales are heavy with good works, then it is they who are truly successful. This is our goal in Ramadan. And your fasting in the day is pouring good deeds onto that scale. I just want you to know, like, I'm going to now mention some other good deeds you can do, but to start with, your fasting is pouring good deeds onto that scale. You're going to the masjid and praying Taraweeh, or coming to the Rabata Cultural Center, or going to your friend's house, or standing up at home and praying Taraweeh is pouring good deeds onto those scales. And so if on the day of judgment, your scale is heavy with good deeds, you've succeeded. You're going to be happier about that than you would be happy about having a baby. You're going to be happier about that than you would be happy to graduate with your PhD. You would be happier about your heavy scales of good deeds on the day of judgment than you are happy about anything to be reconnected with someone who you really love in this world. There is nothing in this world that will equal the happiness you will have if you become of the muflihun. Muflihun comes from a root falaha, fa lam ha, and I do teach a class at Rabata called Falah that teaches us how to be of the successful, and we have 7 habits or ways of being that we work on. I'll be teaching that this summer, so you can keep your eye out for that. So now what happens if we don't? وَمَنْ خَفَّتْ مَوَازِينُهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ. But those whose balances or scales are lightweight, whose sins thus prevail, those ones who have sins more than good deeds. Remember, I already gave you the math. So it's hard to do that. It's hard to have more sins than good deeds, because every time you do something good, you're getting at least 10. Ramadan more. And every time you're doing a sin, you're only getting 1. So this is a difficult math. But if you end up in this place where your balance is light in good deeds, it doesn't have good deeds, it's heavier with the bad deeds, it has too many sins, then it is these who shall have utterly lost their souls. خَسِرُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ. It is a scary phrase. The one who has lost their very self. Very self. And then بِمَا كَانُوا بِآيَاتِنَا يَظْلِمُونَ, because they were transgressing against the signs of God. It's a very clear perspective. It's a very clear path, ya jama'ah. It's a very clear mountain view. Do more good deeds than bad deeds. Now this surah is called Al-Araf, and the Araf refers to the place of those who are, their good deeds and their bad deeds are equal. And they await, at the Araf, they await the judgment of God. But we're not there yet right now. Now we're moving next into this picture of shaitan that I told you about. Now in Ramadan, we don't have shaitan influencing us. You have met your nafs. You are dealing with your nafs. And I know for all of us, the nafs is a real battle. But we should care a lot about our nafs. We should care about that nafs because we don't want to lose it. We want to bring this nafs to Jannah. Now, if we go then to the next page, we're talking about the creation of the human being and how the human being, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, called upon the angels to bow down to us, and Iblis was amongst them, and Iblis refused to bow down. And then this response. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks, it's a fascinating interaction really. قَالَ مَا مَنَعَكَ أَلَّا تَسْجُدَ إِذْ أَمَرْتُكَ. What has stopped you from, what has prevented you or stopped you from bowing down when I commanded you? And shaitan answers, and let this answer be heard by your full self. Because we need to now question ourselves after this. قال أنا خير منه خلقتني من نار وخلقته من طين. He said, I'm better than him. You created me from fire, and you created him out of mud. Now, the reason I want you to pause on this is to think about ourselves. When you think you're better than someone, you're in a dangerous place. Iblis had a reason. I'm better than because of how you created me. But we know that is not a reason for one to be better or not. If you look at someone and think you're better because you're Arab, or better because you're Desi, or better because you're American, or better because of your color or race, or better because of your height, or better because of your weight, or better because of your ableism, all of this is of the breath of shaitan. Ya Latif. Ya Latif. Instead, we must judge ourselves based on our taqwa. Let's continue in the story. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the next verse, قال واهبط منها فما يكون لك أن تتكبر فيها. Descend from this blessed place. It is not for you to be arrogant herein. Be gone. فاخرج إنك من الصاغرين. I'm fascinated by this word صاغرين, which is translated as the eternally disgraced. But صغير is to be small. So the one who was trying to be arrogant, Allah has made small. So remember that in your attempt to be arrogant or think you're better than anybody in this world and this dunya, there is no better in dunya things. It's just stuff. It's just stuff. But what makes us better one from another is our taqwa. Our taqwa. And this Ramadan, we're working on that, remember. Now the next part is, shaitan says, قال أنظرني إلى يوم يبعثون. Grant me a respite until the day of resurrection. Yani, faced with the real meaning of damnation, he doesn't say, forgive me, Ya Allah, but rather, give me some time. He asks for time. And Allah responds with, قال إنك من المنظرين. Okay, all right, you have respite, you have time. And now Iblis makes the promise that we should, that Allah tells us about, so that we know. قال فبما أغويتني لأقعدن لهم صراط المستقيم. Iblis says, then, since you have denounced me as a stray, I will sit in, the English is ever in ambush for them with temptation. But if we wanted to sort of just literally translate it, it is, I will sit in the middle of their straight path. So as you are walking on this path, understand that Shaitan is here attempting, doing his best to get us off of it. ثم لآتينهم من بين أيديهم ومن خلفهم وعن يمينهم وعن شمالهم ولا تجدوا أكثرهم شاكرين. I will be before them, in front of them, and behind them, on their right and on their left, and most of them will be ungrateful. You will not find many of them grateful. So your fight against the influence of Shaitan is to be grateful. And in the month of Ramadan, you've got to get that muscle going, because after Ramadan, the muscle is, you need that muscle. And it's our literal gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to have a month off of Shaitan. And if you want to be able to fight against Shaitan when Ramadan is over, you've got to strengthen that muscle. And the muscle is shukr. So walk with me on this for a minute before we continue. What are the categories that you should be thankful for? Well, one category, and the very important category, is to be grateful for your faith. Be grateful for your belief. Be grateful for what you know about Islam. Be grateful if you were born Muslim. Be grateful you were born as a Muslim. Be grateful for your family. You say, oh, my family is so difficult. Be grateful for them. Be grateful for your friends. Be grateful for the Quran. Be grateful for your health. You say, I'm not healthy. Parts of you are. Parts of you are. Be grateful for your feet. Be grateful for all of your physical self. Think about the parts inside of you that work without any effort. Be grateful for that. You don't have to breathe. You don't have to say, breathe, breathe, breathe. It just naturally happens. Being grateful reminds us of how small we are and helps us to come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Helps us to avoid Shaitan and the influence of Shaitan. Okay, so practice that muscle in this month, because we have to be able to fight against Shaitan when Shaitan comes roaring back at the end of the month. Now, if you continue to the next page, I'm going to jump ahead a little bit. This has been the story of Adam and Hawa, which is a beautiful Muslim story, so different than the Christian story. And for those of you who are not raised Christian, maybe that's not significant for you, but for me, it's so significant. Because as a Christian, the story of Adam and Hawa put all of the blame for all of the trouble on Hawa, the woman. And the Muslim story has two people created from nafsun wahida, from the same nafs, who were tempted, disobeyed, and sought forgiveness. And sought forgiveness, and were forgiven. And we're forgiven, and those are that's our origin story. So when you disobey and you make mistakes, your job is not to follow in Shaitan and arrogantly continue in your mistake. That's how you can lose your faith. But rather to seek forgiveness. Make tawbah. Make tawbah. Repent. And Allah, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, inshallah, will accept you and your forgiveness. And grant you forgiveness, I mean. Now, there's a whole thing here about nakedness. And Sayyid Qutb had a really interesting, almost treatise about it, many, many pages about this idea. And he said, because here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is verse 26, Ya bani Adam, قد أنزلنا عليكم لباسا يواري سوآتكم وريشة وَلِبَاسُ تَقْوَى ذَلِكَ خَيْرٌ. So one of the things that happened when they ate from this tree is they had awareness of their nakedness. And in Fi Dhilal al-Quran, he talks about how one of the differentiations between us and the animal kingdom is our need to wear clothing. That the animal kingdom doesn't. Like, I know there are some people now who knit things for their dogs and all that kind of stuff, but animals they don't want to wear clothes, and they don't wear clothes. And they don't have a sense of they should be wearing clothes. But the human being does have a sense that we should be wearing clothes, and it is one of the differentiations between us and others. Of course, the sort of advent of civilization, the growth of civilization, the stronger our soul has become connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the more we have recognized that clothing is part of our dignity. And so as the modern era and the postmodern era and then the post-truth era, which we seem to be in today, the very secular era has pushed the human being away from godliness, it has also pushed people back into nafs al-amara bis-su. So there are three types of nafs mentioned in the Quran. One is nafs al-amara bis-su, which is the nafs that orders itself to do wrong things, and the nafs does it. It's often called the animal self, or the self that just follows its desires and doesn't have any self-discipline or self-control. And so as our society is pushing itself into this nafs al-amara bis-su, into this space, we just fulfill our desires. We want to eat, we eat. We want to be with someone, we're with them. Like, whatever we want to do, we just do it. As that goes, clothing is lessening for humanity as a whole. I'm not talking about individuals now. For humanity as a whole, people are losing their sense of modesty and their sense of the need, the connection of dignity with clothing. And the Muslim, the believer, libas libasu taqwa, dhalika khayr. Libasu taqwa means the clothing of taqwa. Now, it's translated in my translation today as the garment of taqwa is the best of human adornment. Well, the garment of taqwa, so what is that? It can be either the quality of taqwa, or it could be the clothing that is modest clothing that shows we are on the path of Islam, or it can be both. And of course, we must understand it really as both, because the internal quality of taqwa will mean that we have a sense of dignity in the clothing that we wear. SubhanAllah. And then there is more warning against shaitan. Ya Bani Adam, that's for you and me, because we are Bani Adam. La yaftinannakum ash-shaytan. Don't let shaitan trial you or seduce you. And then how do you avoid that? How do you avoid it? When you make mistakes, you seek forgiveness and become of those who are grateful. All right, let's continue on in this. Oh, well, that's okay. All right, and then let's just go, because I mentioned this earlier, let me just mention it here in verse 36 and 37. No, sorry, 46 and 47. Now we're going to talk about the people of Al-Araf, okay? And I have recommended on this platform before the Al-Barzakh project of Yaqeen. Yaqeen, it's about 13 minutes a day. If you're not watching it, I really recommend it. It teaches a lot about what's happening in the next life. And if you want a real serious class about what happens after you die, we do teach a class at Rabata called The Path of the Soul, I think. It's a class that what happens after you die. I'm not sure it's going to be offered in the summer. We're working on that, but for sure it will be offered in the fall. So you can just keep that in mind if you are interested and want to know more about that. And I think that's important knowledge for everyone to know. We all need to know what's going to happen next. Anyway, so Al-Araf, these people of the Araf. Remember we said in the beginning, we're getting perspective. We said we want our souls, our scales to be heavy with good deeds, not to be light of good deeds. And then we said that's an easy thing to do, because the balance, when you do one good deed, you're getting a lot of good, as though you've done at least 10, Ramadan 70, if you've done one bad deed, it's only one. Now, there are a people who did not succeed in that, and instead they end up on, after they die, with even deeds. With even deeds. And they're mentioned in this surah. They are the people of Araf. And you can see that in 46. وَبَيْنَهُمَا حِجَابٌ وَعَلَى الْأَعْرَافِ. This is what it says. وَعَلَى الْأَعْرَافِ رِجَالٌ يَعْرِفُونَ كُلًّا بِسِيمَاهُمْ وَنَادَوْا أَصْحَابَ الْجَنَّةِ أَنْ سَلَامٌ عَلَيْكُمْ لَمْ يَدْخُلُوهَا وَهُمْ يَطْمَعُونَ. And so it is in English, awaiting upon the heights, Al-Araf, will be those men who can see and recognize each group, those people, those of paradise and those of hell, by their respected marks. They shall call out to the companions of Jannah. Assalamu alaikum, they will say, for they themselves have not yet entered it, but they deeply desire to do so. Then their eyes will turn toward the companions of the fire of hell. وَنَادَى أَصْحَابُ الْأَعْرَافِ رِجَالًا يَعْرِفُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ قَالُوا مَا أَغْنَى عَنْهُمْ. Oops, I skipped one. وَإِذَا صُرِفَتْ أَبْصَارُهُمْ تِلْقَاءَ أَصْحَابِ النَّارِ قَالُوا رَبَّنَا لَا تَجْعَلْنَا مَعَ الْقَوْمِ الظَّالِمِينَ. They look to the people of hellfire and they say, "Oh, our Lord, do not place us with those people who did wrong, the oppressors." And it's not only the terrible oppressors, the ones we see on the news. You become an oppressor of yourself when you deny yourself closeness to Allah, when you deny yourself good deeds, and instead you give yourself all of its animal desires. And now what happens? وَنَادَى أَصْحَابُ. Oops, I skipped again. وَنَادَى أَصْحَابُ الْأَعْرَافِ. Oh. Yep, that's correct. 48. أصحاب الأعراف رجالا يعرفونهم بسيماهم قال ما أغنى عنكم جمعكم وما كنتم تستكبرون. Those people that are there at the Araf will call out to those who they recognize by their mark, saying, your amassing of forces and resources, these are the people of hell, did not help you, nor did your arrogant ways help you. Ya Latif, Ya Latif. And it goes back and forth and back and forth. And then it says in verse 51, الَّذِينَ اتَّخَذُوا دِينَهُمْ لَهْوًا وَلَعِبًا. Remember yesterday we talked about how this world is nothing but لَعِبًا وَلَهُ. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that He's talking here about those who took their religion as amusement and play. Don't make your religion secondary. Make it first. Make it first. That is the most important thing, because that's what's preparing you for your next life. وَغَرَّتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. And they drowned in the life of the world. And then فَالْيَوْمَ نَنْسَاهُمْ كَمَا نَسُوا لِقَاءَ يَوْمِهِمْ هَذَا. We shall forget them because they forgot their meeting with us on that day, with God on that day. Ya Latif, Ya Latif. When religion is taken as play, it means it's taken as silly, as not important, as like a game, you know, like we have games at the center, which are super fun. Come and play with us. Foosball and ping pong. And sometimes I win and sometimes other people win, but it's not a big deal. Like, it's just whatever. It's just a thing. We don't take our religion like that. We take it seriously. We work hard. We don't say, oh, yallah manish. We work as hard as we can to take our religion seriously. And the surah continues with so many other beautiful things. But our perspective today that I want you to focus on today, let's make them 3 things, okay? Perspective number 1. Your amassing of good deeds in Ramadan is much easier than outside of Ramadan. So that's why people tell you, do more, do as much as you can, do as much as you can. And that's why we need to fight our nafs, fight our laziness, fight our tendency to sit, fight everything we've learned from shaitan, and push it aside and try to do our best in this month of Ramadan. Okay, that's number 1. And number 2, the second thing I want you to take from today is remember that shaitan is your enemy, lying in wait for you. Now in Ramadan, shaitan has been taken away from you, so you have an opportunity to grow your muscles against shaitan. And part of that is to be of the shakirin, to be of the grateful. To be of the grateful. So work on your grateful muscle. And the third lesson is there's a lot in this section teaching us that there are people that will end up with even bad and good deeds, and they will stand and they are bearing witness to us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing us what it will be like to look at the people of Jannah and look at the people of hellfire and not know where you're going. Ultimately, in a way, that's kind of where we are now. So we need to take heed from this story to work in the very easy way that Allah has taught us, to do our good deeds and be of the people of Jannah. That's the goal of this month. And when you are a person of Jannah in the next life, you become a Jannah person in this life. The su'ada ad-darain, those who are happy in both worlds, and you make the world a better place. You make other people happier. It's always better to hang out with people of Jannah. They just give you a better hal. I want to say thank you for yesterday because we reached our match. Thank you so much for all of your donations. And today, Michelle at the Rabata Cultural Center would like me to let you know that it is International Women's Day. So congratulations for all of you. And we have a 1-day sale, which only happens once a year on this day. And that is 50% off of all Daybreak Press books that are already published. So those that have not been printed yet are not on sale yet. But those that have already been published, 50% off. So if you run a school, you have kids in a school, you will not get a wholesale deal better than this. So I highly recommend you pop on over there, get a classroom collection of Sophie's Journal, get a classroom collection of pieces. You can do this for your Islamic school. You're getting 50% off of each one. Our novels are Sophie's Journal, Pieces, and An Acquaintance. And I feel like I'm missing one. And we also have Kanya Makan, which is a book of folk tales, which is fantastic. You can bring that one to your kids' public school. You could bring them a classroom selection of them. It's so interesting because it shows you how similar folktales are across the world from different cultures. And we also have Crowning Venture, which is a very important book that is about how women have memorized the Quran. It's stories of women who've memorized the Quran. It is so inspirational. If you are working on your Quran this month, go and buy a bunch of those. Oh, yes, thank you. We have Ask Auntie Aisha. That's a brand new one that we have. Auntie Aisha, this is a great book. It's for 9 to 12-year-olds. All the different questions that they have about growing up. It's for girls and boys, so absolutely grab it. Yes, the Purple Dua book. Grab 10, 20 of them because you can give those. Thank you, Sakina. Joy Jot's my book. Hello. I tell you what, if you order Joy Jots today, I'll sign them before they go out. Okay, so if you order it today, only today, you get that 50% off of Joy Jots. I will send you a signed copy for today. Let's get Joy Jots sold, all right? And Project Lena as well. Someone asked me about Project Lena. Also, you can buy those and gift those to converts. It's a really good book for converts. And what else do we have? I'm trying to think. Where do you order? Let's drop the link in again, please. It's at the bookshop.rabata.org, I believe. And once you order the Daybreak Press books, that will come up automatically 50% off. Prosperity with Purpose is not yet printed, so that is not on the 50% off yet. No. But that's coming. I'm so excited for that book. Keep your eyes peeled because right after Ramadan, right around that tax season, we're going to have Prosperity with Purpose, which is a fantastic book about finances and Muslim women. So super excited about that. We have others coming as well. We also have Finding God. Finding God is stories of converts, a great gift for people in Ramadan, Muslim and non-convert and non-verts, everybody. All right? It's about finding God. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. that's your job today. Go get your 50% off. We also have new Musahif I saw, new Qur'ans. You can go and buy them. Those are not on the 50% off sale, but how lovely and wonderful to have a new Mus'haf to read from in this month. All right, have a beautiful day. Thank you very much for being with me here, and we'll see you tomorrow. Assalamu alaikum.